Hi everyone, this is Richard. In this video we're going to talk about Juggler. We went through Juggler before and we basically said it was how you control time in any type of animation. So when we have an object, we have like an image and we're going to animate it. So we're going to make it move, right? So we have the locations. So we start one place and we move it to the next. And in this previous one, we said we're going to start at 0 and then we're going to move it to this particular height, which in this application would be 800. So we'll start from here and go all the way down here. Okay. Then we talked about transition. What do you do? What is the image going to do in the meantime from this place to this place? How are we going to get there itself? And now we're going to talk about time. How do we actually use time? Well, when you think about it, time is very fundamental here, right? So what are we going to do with the time? Are we going to slow the time down? Are we going to speed it up? Are we going to stop it in between? That's what Juggler actually does. So how you actually do it is Juggler is the object itself. It becomes the object. And when you add a sprite onto the time, let's just say here, for example, the Juggler is the time, which is Juggler. And so what you have is, if you want to basically start the time, you have to add a sprite onto the Juggler. Okay, so the time is the controller. Add the sprite onto the Juggler. You remove the sprite from the Juggler, and what do? Well, you stop time. Okay, so it's a little bit different from what I would expect. I would expect basically it would be like a method, juggler.stop or juggler.start or something like that. But it's actually you add an object and remove it from the time. You remove it from time and you remove it and you stop it altogether. Okay, so let's see how we actually use this. In this circumstance, we said stage.juggler, so it was a method of the stage. How else can we use this? Well, it depends upon what you want to do. Let's just say we have two objects and you want to stop one object but not the other, right? So then you need two separate jugglers, right? Because you want to stop this one but not this one. How do you do it? You two separate jugglers. But what if you want to have one thing, one method of stopping, one means of stopping both objects? Let's say, for example, both objects fall. So what you would probably do is put both objects into a master juggler, a juggler up inside of here, and add both to it. Or what you could do is you could have a juggler for this image, a juggler for this image, and put both jugglers into the main juggler. All right, I hope that's clear. So let's give an example of something like that. So here, I'm going to call it a master juggler. So it's going to be render loop.juggler. Okay, so or it could be stage.juggler, same thing. So it would be this, it would represent this object here is what master juggler actually is. Okay, and I'm going to make a sub juggler, okay, a different juggler, and just create a new object altogether. So what I'm going to do is, this is the master juggler that I said is going to be control of all the sub jugglers underneath there. I'm only going to have one sub juggler to make it nice and easy, okay? So master juggler, sub juggler underneath, will add the sprites to the sub juggler itself. So if I have 15 jugglers, I could stop or control the time for each of the sub jugglers, or I could control all of the jugglers with the master juggler, okay? So I'm going to create a tween right here. Tween fire, new tween, sprite Firefox 30 transition linear. So it's and I'm gonna basically drop the tween fire, animate Y to height. So it's gonna take 30 seconds to go from here all the way down here. And let's see if it does. So it's going pretty slow, okay? So then how do I get the tween fire onto the stage, right? Or on the render loop? What I'm gonna actually do is add it onto the juggler, right? So the juggler, stage.juggler, and then add the tween. So I'm going to create the tween right here, subjuggler.add tween fire right inside here. So for Firefox. What I could do is I could just add it directly to the master juggler, but I'm not going to do that because, again, let's just say there's subjuggler 1, subjuggler 2, subjuggler 3, okay? And I'm going to add all the subjugglers onto the master juggler. So the master juggler can add a tween or another juggler itself. Okay, I'm using the word juggler a lot. I hope it's clear on what I'm actually doing. So this is going to be the master juggler up above. These are going to control the separate sprites themselves. And then what I'm going to say is that HTML window.onKeyUp, listen, event E, and I'm going to say if I press the P key, the master juggler and the master juggler contains the subjuggler. So if it contains the subjuggler, then remove the subjuggler. So remember what I said, you remove the subjuggler, you stop the time of master juggler, right? You add, otherwise, if master juggler does not contain the subjuggler, so in other words, if I removed it already, then I'm going to say master juggler add it again. So what I'm doing is by pushing the P key, the pause, basically, I'm going to remove the subjuggler, so I'm going to take it out of time and separate it. Here's the juggler, here's the tween, or the subjuggler, I'm going to remove it out. If I push the P again, I'm going to add it back in. So what it's going to do is it's going to pause, and then it's going to continue as I push the key button itself. Okay? Let's see how that goes. So I'm going to hit the P, and it pauses it, right? Because the reason it paused it is I removed the subjuggler, which contains the tween fire, from the master juggler itself. Therefore, it pauses, right? So what if I hit the P again? It continues. I hit the P again, it stops, and it keeps going like that. All right, so that's a nice pause button. If I had this drop, I could have put the subjuggler dart image, put that under the master juggler, also .add subjuggler dart, and then I could have paused both of them by hitting the P key as well. Okay? So that's one part of the juggler. Another main feature of it is the advanced time. So advanced time basically says, okay, what we're going to actually do is we're going to actually move time forward. So it takes 30 seconds to go down from here to here. Why don't we move time forward a little bit? So it's kind of like a speed up button, right? But it's not just a speed up button. It's actually a jump button. I think there is a speed up aspect. I haven't really seen that right now, but it's going to jump forward in time. And the two right inside here, master juggler.advanced time, 2, what that 2 is 2 seconds. It advances it 2 seconds. So wherever this is going to be in 2 seconds, it's going to advance it to that point itself. 2 seconds from where you are. So if this is 10 seconds, it's going to increase it to 12 seconds. If you're at 14 seconds, it's going to go to 16 seconds. Okay? And so I'm going to say stage.on mouse click. So if I click anywhere on the stage, it's going to listen for and print. Oh, I'm going to say print master juggler.advanced time itself. Why did I do that? Just to prove that, or just to show that this basically, this returns a bool. If it was successful, it returns a bool. If it was unsuccessful, it returns a false. Okay? So let's save. Let's run. And it comes down. And I'm going to hit the P. And I'm going to click on it. It returns true, but if it's paused, you could click on it all you want. It's not going to advance time because it's paused, right? So if I click the P again and I click, notice it moves, it advances in time by 2 seconds each time. You keep going, and it's going to keep going down there. And the true keeps advancing the more I click it also. Okay, so that's what advanced time actually does. So it returns the bool, that's true, and it moves it forward by 2 seconds. So if I put that 10 seconds, it advances it much more by 10 seconds each time I click on it. Okay, so that's the juggler. We're probably going to go over it a little bit more in detail when we have objects moving around a little bit more in a more complicated fashion, but that's the gist of it. Okay, so that's just the idea of you control the time before you control the objects that move in time itself. And by adding things onto the juggler itself, that's how adding objects or images, the tweens, adding the tweens and adding the sprites onto the tweens and tweens onto the juggler is how you actually control time in these applications in StageXL. Thanks.